All right, the Reds, it's Talking Reds live from Liverpool with me, Gareth Roberts, him, Mo Stewart, and we're talking about the Reds. We're talking about footy, it's nearly back. All right, the Reds, it's Talking Reds. There's me. Shut up, you lad. Shut up, lads. There's me. Technical difficulties as soon as we start. I'm back. I've had 2 weeks off. I've had 2 weeks in my garden, chilling out. I haven't watched any of the Reds, listened to any of the Reds. I haven't looked at any of the transfer rumours. I've just had a fucking lovely break from it. But you know what? I'm looking forward to it now. Sunday, back in the ground, friendly. We don't know whether we can get in with this new download the app thing and you get a ticket. I've got on my phone, it shows me season ticket exists, which is nice. But then the club said, and now you can go and download your ticket for Sunday. And when I go and do that, it says, nah, basically. I mean, it doesn't say nah. No. But, you know what I mean? It ultimately does say nah. And then I think I'm now not alone. And there's a lot of us now going, is this gonna work?
And I understand why the club think that this is going to work or this is going to be a more secure system, but it is making a lot of assumptions. Like, we've all seen phones go wrong just when they're supposed to, and I think there's going to be so many different people who've got different phones. I mean, the idea that we're making the assumption that everybody now has a smartphone, I mean, I'd say most people have a smartphone, but I know people who don't. I mean, there's a fella I went to uni with, he's the same age as me, never had a smartphone in his entire life, still got a brick Nokia, not even on Facebook. Imagine the most annoying person in the world to try and contact Daniel Timmins.
Imagine your score on Snake, lad. He's still playing it. He'd be like, wait, you know, he could go to the Olympics and fucking get a gold medal for Snake.
Yeah, I'm not sure he'd be asked about going to the Olympics, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, the point is that there are, like I say, a lot of assumptions made in that system, and there are going to be a lot of people crossing their fingers that it goes smoothly this weekend.
Yeah, indeed. Let us know, Liverpool, how we get in and what's happening. There are a lot of people asking, there are a lot of people trying to get through, including my mate. I think some communication is required around that one. That's my message there to the club. On messages as well, just a shout out to Degsy, who tunes in regular, did something really nice for me. So thanks very much for that, mate. Much appreciated. Top Red, love you. So there's that done. Okay, in terms of the news today then, I'm going to start off. Mo's got some transfer rumours for you. Don't worry, there's people in the comments saying I'm desperate to hear about more transfer rumours. We will do them. But I want to start off with VAR.
Oh, yes.
Mo's buzzing off me here because it's like I'm a VAR nonce or something, because he was like, I knew you'd want to talk about this. But I've got up today, bearing in mind what I said earlier about, you know, first day back after 2 weeks off and all that. Got up today, looked at a few of the headlines, like, meh. Then I seen this piece in the Times, VAR revamp, and I thought, go ahead. Because you know what? It's fucking spoiled footy for me, massively. Like, I was at loads of games where I was at the game where the very first one, I think, was West Brom, where they used it in a Liverpool game, and it was shit. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, you celebrated the goal, and then you stopped and you waited, and you were like, what's going on? I was at the one Villa, I think it was, away, where Firmino's armpit or something was offside, and it was like, fuck off. So, yeah, basically what they've said today is players who go down on the slight contact will no longer win VAR penalties. That's one thing. They've also said that players being judged by a toenail or nose, that's going to be scrapped, and there's basically going to be a bigger margin for error on offsides as well. One thing that I do like in it, Mo, though, I mean, you can talk about all that, of course, but I like the idea that it said it's now not going to go through the broadcasters. Like, the broadcasters won't get to see the process. To be honest with you, I'm fucking made up with that, because what I felt happened last season was that was a massive issue. You know what I mean? And it almost became like a side industry talking about VAR. It was on Sky every day, it was in the papers every day, it was all over the coverage, and everyone became massively obsessed with it. I've loved the way it was dealt with in the Euros. You know, it was just in the background, it was quite quick, it happened, and it was quite nice, and it was like, can we just have that? Yeah,
and it was proof that it can actually improve the game when it works well. And I mean, there were people saying, yes, obviously, international tournaments are smaller sample size than the Premier League, and there were a couple of stuff, I mean, like the picture that they used in that piece of Sterling going down in the game against Denmark, that was a penalty that people thought maybe VAR should have looked at, so it wasn't perfect, but so much more of what was supposed to happen was happening. And the interesting thing for me about all this is that it kind of shows that the Premier League and how they were interpreting the IFAB rules were way out of step with everybody else, because when you go to a tournament, you see how everybody else is doing it. Oh, okay, that's how it's supposed to work. So I welcome the changes. In terms of what you were saying about VAR ruining the game for you, it's one of those things where I thought by the time we got to the end of the season, the first season, it'd be, all the kinks would have gone. We'd have kind of got used to the newness of it, and we'll be able to just see it as another part of the game. But no, it just kept getting things wrong and kept getting different things wrong, and then changing it, and it was still wrong. And people couldn't agree on how to fix it. People couldn't agree on what was wrong and why it was wrong. And it just seemed like a big mess. And you're right, I think it was one of those situations where it got to the point where it was just, if you're a TV producer for Match of the Day or Soccer Saturday or everything, and you're going through your list of all the talking points, VAR is just there. Yeah. You might as well just write at the top of every page.
But it was like they ended up all talking about that and the papers and the Sky and everything, rather than like skill in footy, rather than like the goals, the game, the stuff that you love. And it was like, hang on, this shit's overtaken everything here. And I've got to be honest with you, Mo, it was like there's a part of me where that, I guess, the COVID situation, all of it, I was thinking I'm falling out of love with footy a little bit here. Do you know what I mean? But now, like I say, I've woken up and I'm looking forward to the match this weekend. I'm looking forward to the fact that we're going to go and do a proper post-match pint on Sunday as well. We're going to get in the pub. We'll get Damien in there. We'll hopefully be able to shout, get in if we've won. It's only a friendly, but fuck it. All the things that we've missed, basically.
You've got to give the people what they want, mate.
Exactly. And if you want to t-shirt yourself up as well, loads on sale at the moment. We've got this little fella here, Canate t-shirt, bit France World Cup vibes there. So you get involved with that, go and have a look at the shop, get yourself a new t-shirt for the new season and all that kind of gear. You've got some transfer gossip.
Yeah, I was looking around for something to talk about. In fact, I was looking on the internet yesterday and I first saw this story pop up, and it interested me because it's a story that, one of those transfer stories where you don't really know where it begins, because you've got a source in England quoting a source in Canada quoting sources in England. But Jonathan David, striker for Lille, we've been strongly linked as having an interest in him. This new story has come about because, I don't know if you're aware out there, but French football in general is in a lot of trouble. Most of the French teams are having to sell a lot of their stars. Lille have already sold keeper Mike Magnon to AC Milan, and there's going to be more to come. We've already been linked this summer with Renato Sanchez, so he's another one on that list. I like Jonathan David. He feels like a very us signing. He's still very young. He only left Canada in January 2018. He was still playing Canadian amateur football at that point, but he's just got better and better every season. He's managed double figures every season he's played, so he's someone who's already shown that he can be consistent, a goal scorer, admittedly in leagues that aren't quite the level we're at yet. But
I mean, is he? I'm reading the piece on him here, and it's doing the thing that people will do when they write pieces about it and say, start to look at, well, how good this work for Liverpool. Someone saying in this piece here, a willingness to press and drop from a central striker position, so therefore a natural understudy to Firmino. That seems to be an area that people are concerned about. When I'm looking around at what Reds are saying, they're saying, well, has Firmino dropped off a cliff now? Are we ever going to see, the previous level of Firmino? Then obviously there's the worry around Origi and the fact that it generally feels like most people want him gone now, probably including the club, and yet he's fucking setting up degrees and just going, nah.
He's trying to make himself a freeman of the city. He's like getting squatters' rights within the city of Liverpool. I know, I get it. But to be honest, what you should really do, if you think about it, is get a move to Everton. That'll really do it. But in all seriousness, no. The thing with Jonathan David and with Liverpool is that when you look at someone like Firmino, he is very, very specific. So when you're trying to replace him, you are looking at things beyond the things you're normally looking at for a striker. I mean, we see that. Klopp tells us every time Firmino's not fit by replacing him with a midfielder, a Wijnaldum, an Oxlade-Chamberlain, even to a certain extent a Jota rather than a straight-up target man. So I think if you're looking at replacing him, more often than not, you're thinking, well, we don't need somebody who does the straight up target man stuff. But you also have to come into play that the coaching staff might be thinking about changing things. I mean, we have played the same way for quite a while now. So it might be that maybe we're too fixated on the fact we've got to find a new Firmino. Maybe they're thinking, we need someone who can do some of the Firmino things, but maybe makes us a little bit different as well. And the thing with Jonathan David, him and Burak Yilmaz for Lille, they played kind of as a partnership, but it was a 9-10 partnership. So sometimes Yilmaz was a target man and David dropped deep. But because he's so quick, sometimes he was the one who went, Yilmaz came deep and he was the one who went in behind. He's got the speed. A little bit like the way Lautaro Martinez and Lukaku do for Inter Milan. So he's got versatility to his game, and as I say, he's getting better and better every time. So if Liverpool are looking for a bargain, someone who, as I say, is already on their list, and then there's Lille, who are a motivated seller, it makes sense that you would say, okay, well, they definitely like him, and they're definitely looking to sell, so let's put these two things together. What I'm saying is, it makes sense, but there's no guarantee that this is a real actual link.
That's the thing, isn't it? I just seen someone say in the comments there, and it's sort of where I'm at with it. It's like, you know, you can't. It's hard to keep up with the amount of players who've been linked to now, isn't it? It's like, you know, like Piercy did that piece for The Athletic, didn't he, a few weeks ago, where he was sort of like, you know, playing down all the links. I mean, obviously he'd just done his job and gone to the club and said, okay, here's all these players that have been linked with, and in any of these, and the club basically went no on all of them, pretty much. There was one or two, you know, that we've seen across the course of the summer that you thought there's something in it.
Yeah.
Out of all of them that we've been linked with, have you got one you're like, I want us to get him, I fancy him, or is it all much of a muchness?
I mean, it's difficult really, because I go back and forth over if we only get one in, whether I want him to be a forward or a midfielder, because I think the idea of having another forward can revitalise the team. We've already seen it. When Mo Salah came in, we saw it when Sadio Mane came in, we saw it to an extent when Diogo Jota came in, that a new forward can really change everything quickly and make you a better team quickly. But we've also got these three midfielders who are coming back late from international breaks, and we've got a potential gap there with obviously Gini leaving. So you would say that that was the more pressing
50 odd appearances, wasn't it, for Gini last season? It's not like, you know, that's a hole.
It is a big old hole. It's a lot. Although I do think as well, Philippa made a point on the gutter last night, which I thought was important. I hadn't thought of, is that we probably wouldn't have played 50 games if the others weren't injured all the time. Like, I mean, he did play a lot every season, but I think with the club knowing that it was probably his last season, I dare say they probably wouldn't have wanted to have leaned on him as much as they did, but it turns out that they could. So there may well be some of those already taken care of if our other guys are less injured. But you're right, I still think that there needs to be another one in there. It could be someone who could maybe fill both. That's why you're looking at the idea of Harvey Elliott suddenly looking at becoming into the midfielders rather than forward ranks, and you think, well, maybe that means that there is a new forward coming in and not a new midfielder. To answer your original question of if there's one, who do I want? I don't really think there is one golden goose out there that we would actually get. I think the likes of someone like a Camavinga or a Jude Bellingham, those are the guys who I would want us to sign. I don't see that happening this summer. That looks like a next summer thing, if at all.
Yeah, I mean, the midfield that he wants to see playing, or you would expect him to want to see playing, is Fabinho, Thiago and Henderson. We've only seen that once. Which is madness, and you know, if they're all fit and they can start the season, then that's sound. Obviously, the worry, the twitchy bum thing is when you're saying things like, you know, everyone got dead excited, didn't they, about you know, a couple of midfielders doing little bits in friendlies and stuff like that. I definitely didn't.
Well, you didn't even watch them.
I didn't even watch them for one. But when I saw, like, I did watch. I seen loads of people go mad about Naby, and I was like, what's Naby done? So I looked up on Twitter, and you know, he megged a couple of people or whatever, didn't he? And it was like, well, I knew he could do that. Stay fit for the season, and then we'll talk.
I mean, I do feel bad for Naby, I really do, because he can only do what he's doing, which is play well in pre-season friendlies. The fact that he gets the kind of room and time and space there that he doesn't normally get in the Champions League in particular, I think he's done all right in the Premier League, to be honest, is one thing. But yeah, you want to be positive about him and you want to say, okay, this can be the springboard, but at the same time, we've been here before. So I'm just going to be like crossing my fingers for him and hoping that it goes the way it should, because being no doubt, people, he's a talented player. I don't think there's very many Liverpool fans who don't think he's a talented player. Yeah. It's just
one of the best dribblers at the club.
Exactly. I mean, Virgil thinks he's one of the best players at the club. I saw him say the other day. It's just, can he stay fit? The last injury was an impact one, ankle injury, as opposed to all of his niggly, muscly pulls. So the feeling is that once he recovers from that, and it looks like he has,
remember he got
injured
by a fucking neck cushion on the plane. I mean, it's one of them, innit? This David fella, people are pointing me towards a quote where he said,
he didn't like Liverpool.
I love all teams in the Premier League, Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester City, but also Southampton, Crystal Palace, Everton. I like nice teams. I'm just not a big fan of Liverpool. Well, he can fuck off.
But I've heard that quote before. I don't really put massive stock in it. I mean, let's face it, we don't want to be like them other lot and complaining about quotes that someone said years ago that may or may not have been tongue-in-cheek. Do we?
Small club.
Exactly.
Small club. Let's have a look what some people are saying in the comments. We are doing a live Talking Reds here. I know some of you will be watching it later on, and it's not live, but you know, it's nice to engage with some of the comments. There was one right at the start from Granola McGee. Presume that's defo your real name. And he says, Costa Simicast to the tune of What's New Pussycat.
I'm into it.
Costa Simicast. Whoa. Yeah, fuck it, why not? Someone else asked as well, do you see him starting the season? Because he's done all right, hasn't he, in the pre-season, apparently.
Well,
I haven't fucking seen it.
No, he has.
But like, yeah, I mean, I've seen highlights, do you know what I mean? I haven't sat down and watched the full games. And he looks all right. He appears to be fit and ready to go and all that kind of stuff. Can you see him?
I can see it. I think there was a lot of chat around the fact that the reason we didn't see so much from last season wasn't so much of how he was playing, it's because there was no one else. Because the rest of the team were missing, they couldn't really afford to rest Robbo because they needed all of the senior players who were fit. So that meant that Simicast didn't get a chance to play. It feels like that hasn't really got him down. I mean, there were rumours around the summer of him being available, but I think it's just because people didn't rate him. And so it's just like, oh yeah, he's someone we can afford to lose. But this will be the crunch. I think if it looks like he has played well, he's had another year in the system. If Klopp is serious about saying, okay, you are going to be our guy when we need to rest Robbo, and we are going to do that more often, then this is it.
So far, though, his highlight basically at Liverpool, Simicast, is, do you remember, I think it was last pre-season, and like, he plays this Master Milner, doesn't he? And you just there, fuck's sake, Costa!
And he'd only been there a week at that point as well. It's like it's welcome to the team moment.
I mean, he needs to move on from that moment, doesn't he? Loads of people saying in the comments as well about Naby, saying, you know, he'd get injured playing footy on the PlayStation. He's only played 52 games in 3 seasons. Size record saying if you say Naby's name 3 times in the mirror, his ACL goes. I mean, this is where people are on him.
I know. I mean, in terms of what you said about how often he's played, he's actually only been unfit for 25% of Liverpool's games. There's been times when he's been
available
and not picked. Yeah. But again, I think that goes back to some of the same thing we were saying about Simicast. When there are people missing elsewhere, Klopp is more risk averse in terms of the rest of the side. But that says 2 things to me. That says, one, that maybe he isn't as unavailable as or unreliable as we think. And 2, if there are times when he's available and he's not being picked, isn't that also an issue?
Indeed it is. There was a thing, wasn't it? There was a rumour about him or a story about him that they were sort of aiming to solve some of the issues around his body, and perhaps that's why they were holding him back. And, you know, again, I'd love to see it. I really would. But I kind of feel like, you know, we've heard these things before about players. It's the same about, you know, I can't get too excited about the idea of Oxlade-Chamberlain. He does look in good nick.
Yeah.
He's a lovely fella. He fits in. He's, you know, all of that. And you know, but this idea that he's like a Bobby all of a sudden.
I think it's a bit of a stretch, yeah. I mean, if you speak to Arsenal fans, a lot of them were worried about his finishing abilities. So, I mean, I think he's come on from those days. I mean, there were times when he was our biggest non-front three goal threat at his best. Again, it's the same. And the weirdest thing about all this is that probably for the rest of his life, when you think of Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain at Liverpool and you have a conversation about him, someone's going to bring up Naby Keita. And vice versa. They're just linked now. They're just the injured lads.
Yeah.
And it's sad that it's come to that way. And you probably think that they haven't got much of a chance left in their Liverpool career to kind of break that cycle. But yeah, it's like Gerrard and Lampard. They're going to be together forever, whether they like it or not.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just laughing at Martin O'Neill, presumably not that one, saying in the comments, Jonathan David. Sounds like he's more likely to be the sports writer for the Telegraph. I like that. Someone wants to see the t-shirt again. This is the Canate one. There are plenty more other options as well on the AnfieldWrap.com. So go and have a mooch at the shop there. Get yourself some clobber for the new season. That is obviously France World Cup inspired. Going down well, that one. So go, have a mooch at that. We've got a live show coming up soon as well. All being well, there are some rules to follow about you know the score now. If you're going out and about, you might need a COVID pass and all that kind of stuff. That's the venue, not us. But go and have a look at that. It's the weekend of the Burnley game. Manford Hall, the Liverpool University. There's going to be an Anfield Wrap live show. There'll be loads of stuff about that on our socials, on the website, round and about. So it's just a bit of a heads up if you're interested in that one. What else have we got on the comments then before we go? People are generally saying, do you think we've got a chance of winning the league? I massively do.
Yeah.
People are saying, you know, they're reading previews, they're listening to experts in speech marks, and they're all talking about City and Chelsea, and they're going to talk about City and Chelsea because City won the league, Chelsea won the European Cup, but we've got the boys back, haven't we?
Yeah.
And we've got to see what shape they're in and how much footy they can play, and there's all those things to be slightly concerned about. But I think if we're getting our best 11 on the pitch more often than not, then we're going to be right up there.
100%. I mean, I think we also have to factor in the fact that the teams who everyone talks about at the beginning of the season are always the team who win the league. Always. It's never completely wrong. You don't even have to look back 12 months or 12 months or 12 months to see that. So I'm not worried about who people are talking about. I think that anyone out there who doesn't think that this team will be better than it was last season is kidding themselves, because we've got players who are coming back from injury. We've got players who have got another year in the system. And I still think that we will add to the squad before September comes. I don't know how many. I think it's probably more likely to be one. But I do think there is one more, at least, deal to be done. So I think we can look better. But yeah, I'm hella optimistic. And then you look at all of the things that we've known about this squad and how they've bounced back from adversity. Every time they've had a knockback, they've come back stronger. So I'm 100% on the train that we can win this league.
Into it. We should be talking about all of that in the Anfield Wrap content this week. Videos, podcast, website as well, of course. And download the app as well if you haven't done already. And you can get the free stuff, obviously, but you can also get a go of the premium stuff. You get some free tokens. You can have a mooch at it. And if you like what you mooched at, you can subscribe. That's the general idea. I think we'll probably leave it there. But as I say, we are now getting excited. We are going to be in the ground this weekend, all being well, if this app thing works and all the rest of it. I know I sound like your granddad there, but you know, I'm 45, I'm an old fella. Listen, it's our last or listen on the old fellas. Give us a ticket that we can keep in a shoebox and go, remember when we went to that game?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's all a bit... Oh, it's all newfangled technology.
People will be like taking screenshots and printing them out and hanging them on the walls. It's not the same.
Okay, well that's been Talking Reds. Buy a t-shirt, listen to the Anfield Wrap, watch the Anfield Wrap, read the Anfield Wrap. Up the fucking Reds.